Good afternoon, all, and thank you, Dr. Pandav, sir, for including in this IC. We all know that trabeculectomy is the gold standard surgery for all patients, and GDDs, that is the glaucoma drainage implants, are now almost considered a silver standard surgery because they are the second most common performed surgery. But in spite of that, we have still a lot of concerns regarding its indications and which design to use and how does it work and all that. So I'll be talking on those indications and some general considerations. The presentation is for academic interest only and no financial interest associated with any names that I mentioned. So how did the GDD first of all start? Initially, to avoid a new pathway for drainage, the cetons were developed, which were solid structures placed in the wound to form a drainage path. And these then gradually got designed into shunts and valves, which were tubular structures. The shunts provided a flow in either direction, whereas the valves allowed unidirectional flow. So from this, the concept of the GDD came, which were specially designed plates having connector tubes, which connect the aqueous either from the anterior chamber or the posterior chamber to a subtenon's lake, which we create at the equator. Coming to the GDD history, the first one was in fact the drainage system that was used was a horsehair. Two corneal paracentesis minute wounds were created and a horsehair was threaded to allow for the aqueous drainage. And this was then modified and worked on to convert it into a polythene silicone tube use. But the first formal GDD was designed in 1973 by Molteno, and this was then further designed to make a valvular formulation, which was designed by Krupin. Molteno then worked on his own implant to make a double plant implant. But the major breakthrough in this entire segment occurred in 1992 and 1993 with the design of the Barwell valves and the AGV valves, that is designed by Ahmed and popularly known as the AGV. And of course, now we have the Indian versions for both of these. Among the different types of tubes that are available, we can categorize them into non-valved, that is, they do not have any valvular mechanism to control the pressure or the intraocular flow, intraocular pressure or the flow. And the most popular are the Barwell and the ADI. ADI, that is the Orolab aqueous drainage implant. And among the valve, the most popular, as I said, is the Ahmed. And also we have the Indian version, which is the KK Mehta valve. There are also implants for the non-penetrating drainage surgery, which are the absorbable and the non-absorbable, but they are very much into the research stage and still not taken up into the market and into practice. So I'll be discussing on the most frequently used ones, that is the AGV and the ADI. So what are the parts of a drainage implant? All of them have a connecting tube which connects from the aqueous, whether in the anterior chamber or in the posterior chamber, to the plate. This is the reservoir plate, which is the main function and the main system which controls the drainage of the aqueous. You have different holes and fenestrations in these plate. Some of these are the anchoring holes through which you pass your suture through the plate onto the episclera and sclera, whereas the others are for the fibrous tissue to grow in. So this fibrous tissue allows both the anchoring of the plate, it allows the formulation of the bleb encapsulation, and it also keeps the plate and the entire drainage device stable and prevent any ocular motility issues. The edge of the external plate has a ridge through which the tube inserts. So this ridge prevents any posterior occlusion and compression of the tube. And the valvular devices, they have a membrane valve, which is a highly sensitive structure. While handling, you should not be touching this area, which are present at the junction of the tube and the plate. And this valve opens only when the IOP goes beyond 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury. So how do these GDDs function? Basically, the construction of the plate is from such a material. Usually nowadays, they are elastomeric silicons to which fibroblasts cannot adhere. So what happens? When you implant your GDD into the episcleral space near the equator, with the tube lying either in the AC or the pars plana, there is formation of a collagenous capsule around the plate. So this subsequently gets surrounded by granulomatous reaction. Finally, the reaction resolves in 4 months and the capsule becomes stable. And finally, there is maturation over time. The capsule gets a little thinner and stabilization of the entire process occurs usually by 6 months. Now, as I said, because of the material, the fibrous capsule that is formed, it does not get adherent to the plate, but it just overlies the plate. So there is an aqueous pool which is created in this potential space between the plate and the surrounding capsule. And the aqueous collects here, passes through the capsule by diffusion, and then gets absorbed by the capillaries and the lymphatics, leading to the reduction of the intraocular pressure. So you can now understand that this fibrous capsule is a major tissue or the major substance which offers the resistance to the aqueous flow. So how much your device will function, how much will the IOP lowering happen, that is designed by this capsule. Here the bleb is, as we just heard in the prior keynote address, and Dr. Pandav also mentioned, the bleb here is placed away from the anterior limbus. Whereas in the conventional trab, it is more encroaching on the limbus and even sometimes on the cornea. So this reduces the inflammation. There is less amount of bleb thinning and lesser bleb dysesthesia. Whatever drainage device you use, there could be two types of major phases in the intraocular pressure that we see. One is, it could be the hypotensive phase, which is more common with the AGV in the initial parts. And again, depending on how you ligate your non-valved tubes and how and when do they get dissolved, it all depends on this phase. So here the bleb would be diffuse, it would be thick walled, and there will be minimal vascularization. There is also a hypertensive phase seen where the bleb would be inflamed and it would be dome shaped. Again, this is more commonly seen with the AGVs subsequently, because in the AGVs, what happens, the aqueous starts flowing immediately. The moment you implant the bleb and close everything, the aqueous starts percolating. And so there is a lot of release of mediators and the entire process of capsulation begins right on. And so this process continues for a long time and there is a significant amount of inflammation and encapsulation. So the hypertensive phase occurs subsequently in an AGV. And this leads to an increased IOP. But whatever the drainage device used and whatever the initial phase is seen, ultimately, as I said, at the end of 6 to 7 months, there is a stable phase with the stabilization of the intraocular pressure. This stabilization may not necessarily be a low IOP or your target IOP, but ultimately it settles down. So the long-term IOP control finally depends on, of course, the surface of the implant. That is obviously the larger your implant, the more the amount of bleb formation and the more would be the diffusion of aqueous. It is inversely proportional to the bleb diameter and the bleb thickness. As I said, it also depends on the time of the aqueous flow initiation and the response of the tissue to the plate, which would be variable from individual to individual. So this progressive fibrous encapsulation is the major factor which limits and decides the filtration life of all the current GDDs. Now, when do you use the GDD? Now we all know at this point of time that a primary indication is, of course, in all complicated and refractory glaucomas as a secondary procedure when your trab has failed. But nowadays, a lot of surgeons are also taking up as a primary procedure when you're almost sure that your trab with or without an antimetabolite is going to definitely fail. So these indications we all know: failed trab, pediatric glaucomas, NVGs, uveitis, post-surgery, traumatic glaucoma, aniridia, and though uncommon but still sometimes seen, epithelial downgrowth. Patients with severe dry eye disease who might not tolerate all those anterior blebs that we just saw and possibly are very prone candidates for bleb dysesthesia, in also those cases you can consider a drainage device. When should you avoid? There are now no known absolute contraindications where you cannot do a GDD. But definitely in cases where there is severe scleral or sclerolimbal thinning in collagen vascular diseases, ophthalmic eyes, high myopic eyes, or where the conjunctiva is extremely fibrous and friable, where dissection is going to be very difficult, there are risks of scleral perforation, then perhaps you might consider other alternatives and avoid a GDD. And finally, where should you implant the GDD? Now, most commonly used is a single plate implant. So it is implanted in the single quadrant. And the most common quadrant is the superior-temporal quadrant, which provides the easiest access to implant and is least likely to produce motility disturbances. Supranasal provides less space. There are more risks of motility disturbances. And because of the proximity of the optic nerve, there is risk of the optic nerve impingement. If there is presence of an inverse hypopyon, you should always place it in the inferior quadrant. Again, here infranasal is more technically difficult. Infratemporal is easy and there is more space. But in all these cases, to remember in the inferior part that because of the cosmetic concern, you may avoid a scleral graft, but rather use a corneal graft for the cosmesis and better outlook. Most of the cases, again, we usually use an implant and the tube going into the anterior chamber, but sometimes we may use a pars plana insertion also in eyes that have undergone vitrectomy when there is hardly any space in the anterior chamber, as in case of multiple peripheral anterior synechiae, in presence of compromised corneal endothelium, or in post-keratoplastic cases. So to conclude, Before deciding your surgery, you have to consider the device design. You also need to remember that the RT is horizontally more in diameter, while the AGVs, they are more in the anterior posterior diameter. Consider the patient need and the need of IOP control, their overall profile, the economic status, because each foreign valve and Indian valve, it costs different, and your own experience and condition. Thank you.